friends, welcome back to our final short O video of the week. All week long we have been practicing our short O sound aw, as in octopus. We've looked at it in CVC words, we've looked at it in a poem, and we've practiced forming some of those words with real words and nonsense words. So today we get to put it all together and do something a bit more fun in the form of a word ladder. So we've done these with short A, short E, and short I. Now we get to do it with short O as well. So today we're going to be walking through a word ladder together, and then you'll have a chance to do one on your own on Seesaw. So let's get started. So what are we learning today? Our learning standard today, friends, says I can isolate and pronounce initial, medial vowel, and final sounds in spoken single-syllable words. This means if my teacher gives me a word like pot, I can say each sound. P-a-t, pot. This is important when we're doing word ladders because we need to be able to look at a picture, listen to a word, and then figure out what letters we need to use to spell that word. It's especially important when we're looking at which letter is changing because that is the hallmark of a word ladder, right? One letter changing each step of the ladder. But before we get too far into it, let's watch our CVC Words Letter O video.
CVC words, I know what they are. Consonant, vowel, consonant. 3 letters, that's for sure. When we say each letter, shake your hips. 1, 2, 3. When we say their sounds, stretch your arms left to right with me. When we say the word, reach up high and celebrate. H-O-T. H-A-T. Hot. Hot. H-O-T. Hot. D-O-T. D-A-T. Dot. Dot. D-O-T. Dot. J-O-B. J-A-B. Job. Job. J-O-B. Job. M-O-P. M-A-P. Mop. Mop. M-O-P. Mop. Let's do some more CVC words. P-O-P. P-A-P. Pop. Pop. P-O-P. Pop. B-O-X. B-A-X. Box. Box. B-O-X. Box. C-V-C words, I know what they are. Consonant, vowel, consonant. 3 letters, that's for sure. CVC words. Consonant, vowel, consonant. CVC words.
Alrighty, so now that we've heard some CVC words with that short O sound, ah, let's practice putting some of them together into our word ladder. So let's kind of review, friends, what are word ladders? Well, a word ladder is a tool that today we're going to be using to practice CVC words, those consonant, vowel, consonant words. 3 letters, 3 sounds with a short vowel sound in the middle. This week it is aw for the letter O. If we took the word rod, for example, R-O-D, R-A-D, rod, we could change it into the word pod, P-O-D, P-A-D, pod, by changing the in rod to a P. If you look, friends, we can see that in the word rod, we have R-O-D. Notice the letters O-D. If we change it to the word pod, we changed R, but O and D stayed the same. This is important to know for word ladders because as we work our way up the ladder, we're going to be changing 1 letter at a time. That means 2 of our letters are going to be staying the same. So in this case, O and D stayed the same, and just our first letter changed. Let's practice putting this together onto an actual ladder. So we start at the very bottom of the ladder, just like you would if you were climbing a real ladder, and we'll put our first word down there, rod. As we just saw, we can change the word rod to the word pod by changing that first letter. As we continue our way up the ladder then, friends, we're going to continue to change one letter at a time so that we can form our new word and get all the way up to the top. Let's get going. So as we can see, we have a picture of a pot. Pot. If we were to compare the words pod and pot, we would notice that the first and the middle sound are the same. P-O, or p-aw. If we sound out pod, p-aw-d, and then sound out pot, p-aw-t. The only sound that's changing is that final sound. In the word pot, I hear t at the end. So if I were to write it down, I would write P-O-T, pot. This is only different from the word pod because of that last letter. The P and the O stayed the same. Just like in the words rod and pod, O-D stayed the same. This time, P and O stayed the same, and the final letter changed. You can see it marked in red. Let's do another one. Up next, we have a dot. Dot. If you were to sound out the word dot, friends, what is the first sound you would hear? Good, the first sound is D. We know that D says D, so let's compare that to what we already have. Our first letter in pot is P, and we just figured out that the first letter in dot is going to be D. Since those are different, we're going to have to assume that our other letters are staying the same, but let's check it and make sure. The middle sound I hear in dot is aw, d, aw, t. And the final sound I hear in dot is t, d, aw, t. Since I hear the aw and t, or O-T, at the end of dot, I can assume that this is the right word that I'm trying to spell, since we already have those in the word pot, and I'm going to be changing my beginning sound from P to D, or from P to D. As we can see, O-T stayed the same from pot to dot, and just our first letter changed. Let's keep going. So here we have a dog, dog. If we sound out the word dog, I hear the sounds D, A, G. Let's compare it to the word dot. The first sound in dog is D. That's the same as the first sound in dot. The middle sound in dog is aw. Again, that's the same as in dot. The final sound in dog is G. But the final sound in dot is T. That means that that must be the letter we're changing. We just figured out that our D and O are going to be staying the same, and that T is going to be changing into a letter that says G. What letter says G? Ah, very good. G. So the word dog then would be written D-O-G, sounded out D-A-G. And the only letter we changed was the T to the G. Our D and our O stayed the same. So as you can see, each time we're going up the ladder, we're changing one letter. Two of the letters are staying the same. Up next we have fog, fog. Now if we were to sound out the word fog, friends, what sounds would you hear? Good, I would also hear f-a-g. Let's compare it to the word dog. The first sound in fog is f, but the first sound in dog is d. So we may have already found the letter that we're going to change, but let's keep going just to be sure. The second sound in fog is aw, and the second sound in dog is also aw. The last sound in fog is g, and the last sound in dog is also g. So since our aw-g, og, or og, stayed the same, that means we were right in thinking that our first sound was going to change. So let's go back to that first sound then. The first sound we heard in fog was f. Friends, what letter says f? F. Very good. So to write the word fog, we keep our og the same, and we change our d to an f. F-O-G, f-a-g, fog. Wonderful. Now we are up to the final rung of our ladder, friends. So let's figure out what our last word is. This is a picture of a fox. Fox. What sounds do you hear in the word fox? Good, I also hear the sounds f, a, x, fox. Let's compare that to the sounds we hear in fog. The first sound I hear in fox is f. And I can see that the first sound in fog is also f. So far, so good. The middle sound in fox is aw, f, aw, x. The middle sound in fog is also aw, made by the letter O. Now the final sound in fox is x. What letter says x? Good, X says x. Do we see an X at the end of the word fog? No, we see a G, don't we? So that means that must be the letter that we're changing. We already know that our F and our O are staying the same, so our G must be changing into an X to make the word fog turn into the word fox. Wonderful job, friends. So let's go through and read all of our short O words together. I'll have you note that throughout all of our words here, O stayed the same. Since that is our phonics focus, that sound was never going to change. The same will be true when you get to your Seesaw activity. So when you're sounding these words out, just remember that it's always going to have that O in the middle saying aw. Let's start at the bottom of our ladder here and read our words together. Rod, pod, pot, dot, dog, fog, fox. Great job, friends. Our code word today is or, O-R, or. If I were to use this word in a sentence, I might say, do you want chocolate or vanilla ice cream? Or, O-R, or. So our Seesaw activity today then, friends, is going to look like this. It is a word ladder just like the one we just did, and it looks similar to the assignments you did for short A, short E, and short I. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your text tool or your drawing tool, and you're going to write that code word here in the box. So our code word today was or, so we're going to write O-R, or there in the box. Then you're going to do the word ladder. So you're going to start here at the bottom with the word box. You see a picture of the box, and we already gave you the word box, spelled B-O-X. Your job then is to go up the word ladder and fill in the missing words. So there's pictures and there's a little speaker that if you click that play button, you can listen to the word being read if you're not quite sure what it is. So we have a bot. You're going to write the word bot in this space. Then we have the word pot. Keep going. We have hot, hop, and mop. Okay? So you're going to write each one of those words in their space on the word ladder. Remember to click on the play button if you need to hear them. And if you'd like to hear these directions again, click on the little video and I will describe it one more time for you. All right, friends, that is all we have for today. That wraps up our time with short O. I cannot wait to see how your word ladders turn out. Good luck on everything. Rock on, my superstars, and I will see you all next time.